Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Wandalee, and in this video, I will be doing a part 2 of the pros and cons of renting and maybe even owning a home in New York City versus living in Pennsylvania where I live. Now, I just want to preface this video by saying that I am specifically talking about this area where I live because Pennsylvania, like many other states, is huge and not every area is the same. So the location where I live is the Pocono area, the Bushkill Falls area, where it's a lot more country, but there are areas in Pennsylvania that are a little bit more city, even though those of you from the city wouldn't consider the city areas here very city-like, okay? So I wanted to make this video because I was chatting with a coworker of mine, and the first video I made, I was only here for about maybe 3 months, and now I've been here, let's see, I moved in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. It'll be 7 months on the 25th of February. Today is the 6th, and I think I pretty much passed that honeymoon stage where a lot of things have hit me and I'm learning a lot of things that I think would be helpful for people to know who are thinking or planning on moving to Pennsylvania, whether that be renting or purchasing a home. So I hope that this video is helpful to you. So I did post on my Instagram. Those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram name right below. Sometimes I do post on my stories ahead of time the videos that I'm going to be making, and I like to get questions or any feedback from the viewer. So without further ado, let's get into the pros and cons of New York City versus Pennsylvania. I'm trying not to make my videos too long, but it is a little lengthy, so please bear with me. Okay, so we're going to start with the cons of living in Pennsylvania versus the city, okay? If you are planning on still working in the city like I do, then be ready for a pretty long commute. Now again, where I live is a Bushkill Falls, Stroudsburg. East Stroudsburg is not too far, the Pocono area. Then be ready for a 4 to 5 hour round trip commute, okay? And the ways that you could commute into the city, if you're planning on living here and working in the city, is there are commuter buses and you can drive. So living in Pennsylvania and working in the city, it does kind of wear you down in the sense of the commute. It is tiring, okay? For me, it takes me about 2.5 hours each way. So every day that is a 5-hour commute. So you would have to wake up extremely early depending on the time you have to be at work. I wake up normally when we're commuting. Right now, obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I'm working from home. But normally, I would get up at 3:30. I would be out the house by 4:30, and I would drive to the commuter bus by 4:45, and then I would get into the city between 6:30, 6:45. And that's just me. I don't have to be to work by 7:30, but I do teach, so I like to get there early. So I would get there between 6:45 and 7 o'clock in the morning. Then coming home, I would leave work at 4:30, and because of the rush hour and the traffic, it does take longer to get home. So I wouldn't get home, I wouldn't board the bus till about 5:30 because it takes some time to get through the train station and to the bus stop. I would board the bus at 5:30, and I won't be walking into my door until 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes if there's a lot of traffic, 8:30. If there's a lot of snow or there's severe weather, it could be later than 8:30. I've experienced one time there was an accident and I think I got home around 9 or 9:30 at night. So that is a con, okay? Is the commute. It can be long, and if you're not someone who can handle long commutes and you feel like that's gonna wear you down, then you definitely want to think about that. Another con is there's not a lot of jobs here in Pennsylvania in this area where I live. There are jobs, but there's no really career jobs. So if you're a career person like me, there's not a lot of teaching jobs or jobs that are really stable that offer benefits. So yeah, you can work at a pizzeria or at Walmart or at Home Depot, But if you're someone who has a career, you definitely want to think about if you're going to be able to do that same career here in Pennsylvania, or if you're going to have to commute into the city. Okay. I will say most people here that I've met, there are a lot of people who own homes here who actually do work in the city because of the same reason. And a lot of people, either they own a home and they commute daily like I do, or they own a home and they just come on the weekends because they can't handle the daily commute. Another con is you pay for utilities here. You pay for electric, water, and in some places you might even pay for gas. So if you're living in the city and you're in an apartment building, I know I used to live in the Lower East Side, and you don't really pay for anything there besides maybe like your cable bill, but you don't pay electricity. It really depends where you live. So you might live in the city and you might pay electric, or you might pay water. However, if you're renting here, then you're going to pay definitely electric and water, and in some places you might even pay for gas. So that is a con. You are going to have to pay for those things, so you won't be able to run those long hot showers for hours like I used to love in Lower East Side. One thing about the projects in the city is they have amazing heat, and my gosh, the water just never runs out. I do miss that about the city. Okay, next con. The cost of heat in the winter here can be really high if you're not prepared for it. If you don't take like, if you're not proactive in insulating your home, then when the winter comes, you're gonna be freezing, or your bill is gonna be really high. So where I live, I have central air, so it's electric, but I also have a fireplace. So what I had to do was to keep my bill low, because I don't like to be cold, is you kind of have to, you can cover your sliding doors or large windows with the plastic. I did put inserts underneath doors where there was a lot of gaps where cold air was coming in. And there's also these sticky foamies that you kind of put in small gaps around windows, like what I have here. You can't really see it because this middle window didn't have any gaps, but this window opens. So there's these little gray things, I'm not sure if you can see, but they're little gray sticky foam things, and they come in different sizes. I got the smallest, narrowest one, and you pretty much put it all around every single window. So that's one way to help keep your bill low. You can also use your heating stove if you have a heating stove in the house, or a fireplace, okay? So yeah, the heating, if you're coming from New York and not paying electric, or you're used to a lot of really good heat to the point where you have to open up windows, then when you move here, you're gonna have to adjust to the temperature, because it's not going to be as warm, and even when you insulate, it's still not gonna have that same heat that New York City apartment buildings have. One, because of all the windows and doors, you are considered to be in a upstate kind of area, so it is colder, and two, the ceilings are also usually higher, okay? Another con, which is one thing that I'm seeing now I've lived here for 4 years, but this is my first time owning a home where I have to do everything myself. I rented prior, and I rented in a community where they did shovel and do your area, sidewalk, everything for you, so I didn't have to do it. And then prior to buying this house, I did live in this same community where you're responsible for your own driveway, but I did live with my husband, but we're now separated. So he would do that, but now it's falling on me, okay? So you do get lots of snow here in Pennsylvania. When I say a lot of snow, I mean a lot of snow. So like, I do still work in the city, and when I'm online or like on Instagram, when I see friends or people posting the snow in the city, I'm looking at it like, really? That's nothing. Because I'm so used to like the snow here. Recently, we just got literally, I'm trying to think, about maybe 2.5 feet of snow. And yeah, the snow was up to my knees. So that's a severe snowstorm here. In New York, it's probably like, I don't know how many inches, but it's definitely not 2.5 feet. So you do get a lot of snow. If you're gonna live in a townhouse or in a community where all the little houses are the same, then they usually do shovel your sidewalk and the parking area for you. But if you're gonna live in an area where I do live in a community, but it's not a townhouse or all the houses are not identical. They do shovel the main streets in the community, but I'm responsible for the front of my house, for my driveway, for the deck, and any area that is my private property. Okay, so if you're gonna live here, you definitely need to get a snow blower. That's one thing you can do. You can set aside money to pay someone to do it. I'm sure you can call, there's a lot of places you can call and have someone with a truck that has that big shovel thing in the front. You can pay them to do your driveway, or you can pay, there's some young kids who like to go around and do shoveling. You can pay someone to do it, or you can do it yourself. Now, it is going to be more difficult if you live alone like me, because if you live with a partner or you have family members around, or you do have more dispensable, then you can hire someone. I don't have those things, so it falls on me. So I shovel, and I actually recently just ordered a snowblower. I don't think I ever thought I would be so excited or anxious to get a snowblower until I moved here. So yeah, that's definitely a con. It is a lot of work, okay? Another con is everything is 20 minutes or more away. So you're not gonna be able to just like get up one day and walk to the corner store like I used to when I lived in Queens. I used to love just getting like the munchies and getting up no matter what time it was, going to the corner bodega, getting me some snacks, or going to like the Chinese store right across the street, or to McDonald's or the pizzeria. You can't just get up and go walk out for 2-3 minutes to the corner or down the block to get a snack or something to eat. You're gonna have to hop in your car and drive at least 20 minutes or more to the nearest grocery store, corner store, deli. There's not really corner stores here, but there's like delis and like the gas station and other types of fast food places. Told you this was going to be in depth. I do have a lot of notes because I didn't want to forget anything this time. I want this video to be as helpful as possible for those of you who are seriously thinking about moving to Pennsylvania, especially any area where it's very country and rural. Okay. Another thing that is a con, when I moved here, I was like, you mean I gotta pay for that amount of Wi-Fi and it's still not unlimited? I didn't get it, because I came from New York, and once you pay for your Wi-Fi, you get as much Wi-Fi as you want. It's unlimited. Not here, you guys. You pay a certain amount for you get what you pay for. So if you want if you want really good Wi-Fi, or like a certain amount of data or streaming, you are gonna pay more, and it's still not gonna be unlimited. If you're someone who uses it a lot, you're still gonna be out of it. So it'll be slower, it won't be as fast, okay? Yeah, and there's a lot of areas that are like dead zones that the Wi-Fi is not good. I will say that the best network to use is Verizon from my own experience. When I had Sprint or T-Mobile, horrible service over here. So anyone who has like teenage kids or you're constantly on, what will happen is when you're kind of reaching that limit, then your bandwidth, it starts to like slow down a little bit. Now me, I live by myself, and I do use Wi-Fi for Zooming for work, and I do stream. I'm not on it 24/7, so it doesn't really bother me. But if you have a huge household and you have a lot of people, teenagers, kids who like to be on the internet all the time, 24/7, then that might be a little bit of an issue, because your Wi-Fi will start going really slow. Another thing that is a con is power outages. Power outages occur here more regularly than they do, excuse me, in the city. Now, this occurs when there's severe weather. So like heavy rains, or like with a lot of wind, sometimes with a lot of snow, but it has to be like more a mix of a lot of snow and strong winds. Now, this depends on the area where you live. There's areas in PA where you might be out of power for an hour. Some you might be out for a day. Other areas you might be out of power for 2 weeks, okay? Where I live right now, and this is my second year living in this community, I've only experienced being without power for 1 day. That was a max. I know there are areas that were about 20 minutes away from me, even further up the mountain or the hill, whatever you want to call it. And there were some areas that were out of power for 2 weeks, right? So that's why you would need to really think ahead, think if you have family here, and ask around. If you're planning on living in a community, you definitely want to ask people around that neighborhood or even the realtor how many days that area usually is without power when there's severe weather. The most that I've been out of power, and people in general have been out of power in this community, has been for 1 day. So for me, that's pretty doable, okay? And when you do get out of power, that's when something like your generator or your pellet stove or your fireplace will come in handy for heat. Another con is that you need, I cannot stress enough, that you must have a car. Tú tienes que tener un carro. I know that was terrible, you guys. I'm really sorry. I'm working on my Spanish. But yeah, you need to have a car to live in this area of Pennsylvania. I think pretty much in any area of Pennsylvania, even the city areas, you still need a car, okay? If you don't have a car, you need a car. So I would say another con is that living here, if you're someone who likes to order food and have it delivered to you, most restaurants are not going to deliver to the area where I live. Now, there are places where you will get food delivered to you, but you have to be in like the more city areas. Where I live, again, there are restaurants that do deliver, but they won't deliver to me because I'm still too far away. Okay, so if you're someone who's used to getting deliveries, you're either going to have to order it, drive there and pick it up, or you're going to have to cook at home. Okay, the next con is you're responsible for your property if you don't live in a townhouse. So what I mean by that is when it snows, or like any trees, or like taking care of the property. If you live in a house like I do and it's not a townhouse and you don't pay those extra fees to have them take care of your property, then it does fall on you. So I'm responsible for cutting trees if they're in danger. I'm responsible for shoveling. I'm responsible for blowing my leaves to the back. I'm responsible for the general upkeep of the house and the land around my house, including the driveway, which my driveway is pretty big, okay? You see this fabulous cup, you guys? Isn't it gorgeous? It's like a holographic Louis Vuitton patterns. I keep telling my girlfriend to get an Etsy page, to get an Instagram page, start selling these. It's gorgeous. She makes like these really amazing Starbucks cups and really cute cups like this with the straw. And this is really good for hot or cold drinks. She has a really great style. She makes really cute t-shirts. Great aesthetic. I don't know, you guys, maybe if you guys help and comment below. I've been like nagging on her to get her own store. She would make tons of money making all these cute things. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Told you it was pretty lengthy. Another con, it's harder to find good restaurants here. That is definitely one thing I had to get adjusted to. One thing I loved to do in the city was go to restaurants, and I would like do Groupon and just go to as many restaurants as I could. I loved to be able to do that. Here, there's more diners and like chain restaurants than there is those little great hole-in-the-wall restaurants. Now, I will say this. I love Thai food. That is one of my favorite foods to eat. I did finally, after living here for about going on 4 years, I finally found the best Thai restaurant around here in PA. Excuse me, it did take me some time, and I did have to visit a lot of Thai restaurants and do my research, but I'm so thankful that I found the best Thai spot in the Bushkill Falls, Lehigh Valley, Pocono area. For those of you who do live in this area or are familiar with it, Sue's Thai on Milford Road, the best. The best. Food's amazing, you guys. But yeah, very hard to find restaurants here. You're not just going to be able to get all dressed up or meet up at a really cute restaurant. You'll find like more chain restaurants, like the what is it called, like steakhouses, like Friendlies, more like diner style restaurants. So for those of you who are a little bit snooty when it comes to going to restaurants, you're gonna have to lower your standards here in PA, okay? All right, next con is businesses close earlier. So like I said before, not only is a distance further, so you can't just get up and go to the corner store or bodega, but even if you want to take a drive, a lot of places like little stores and shops do close early. The only place that you will be able to go to when it's really late at night, I would say, is Walmart closes pretty late, and the gas stations are open 24 hours. But all the other stores like Chinese and all that, they don't stay open extremely late over here, all right? Another thing is, which is a reason why you need a car, is there's no subway system here. There are some buses that run, but there's not many, and you would have to live in this city area to get to the bus. So like for me, if I wanted to take a bus to a shopping area where I live, I would have to drive there anyway, so you kind of still need a car, okay? Unless you live in the city area, there are buses here and there, but I don't live in the city area of Pennsylvania. All right, oh my God, this is a big one, you guys, and it's making me hungry. So, one huge con for me, because I'm a foodie, I love to eat, I enjoy food, is the bagels and the pizza here. Nothing like New York City, okay? And maybe you'll say that about every city, but I feel like in some cities you can find good bagels and good pizza. I am sorry, I have yet to find a really good bagel spot here in Bushkill or a pizza spot, all right? It just doesn't compare. I don't know if it's the water or the dough, but I know I've just lately, there's times where I'm craving it and I'll be dreaming about that one bagel spot or the pizzeria down the block where I used to live in Queens. Oh, those delicious water-boiled bagels. Oh my goodness. I used to get up in the morning on Saturdays and go there, and it was packed. And I would get my bagel with eggs over easy and like bacon and cheese. And anyway, I'm getting off topic, but you get the point. You're not going to find the New York style bagels here or the amazing pizza like you will in New York City. And if you're someone who happens to be watching and you're like, I know of a place, please comment below, but it's probably 5 hours away from me anyway. Yes. So, moving on. Another con, if you are renting and you have a pet. Now, some places do allow pets, but you will have something called pet rent. Not only will you have to put a down payment so that if you move out and anything's damaged, it covers what your pet has damaged for security purposes. Some landlords do require pet rent. So like I know for Bella in the old house, I was paying $50 extra a month to have her live with me. Yeah, so she had her own rent. I should have made her work for it, but yeah, I paid rent for me and for my dog. Another thing, drivers are not in a rush. Now that could be a pro and a con. I'm talking about the con of this. Drivers here are not in a rush, usually. They're not going to be like speeding around and going all crazy. There are some, give or take, like there's always going to be some of those people. But the reason why that could be a con sometimes is because if you're in a rush or you didn't get up early or you have to go somewhere and you're rushing, don't expect the whole world to be rushing with you, friends. Not over here. It can be annoying if you're in a rush and no one else is. All right. Another con is there's not a lot of things to do here. So like in the city, I know I used to love going to art museums, regular museums, restaurants, different types of little restaurants on the rooftop. There was always something new in the city, something to try. There's not a lot of that here. Again, like I said, there's diners. There's a few hole-in-the-wall restaurants here and there that are not that great. You have to search for them. So the nightlife here, if you're moving to PA and you still want that kind of New York City nightlife, you're not going to get that here. There are some places that do stay open and they're like considered the nightlife of PA, but it's like a bar / pool hall that's connected to a diner or like a bowling alley. And there may be some little bars or nightclubs here or there, but for the most part, yeah, it's not much of a nightlife kind of place. And it's funny because you will find all the New Yorkers going to those places because it's the only place to go. My thing is, if you're still into the nightlife and you kind of want that busy lifestyle, then I don't know, you may really want to think about if this is the right place for you to live. Okay, me, I'm over and done. I'm past that stage of my life. I'm a little older now. I've been there, done that. After a while, it gets old. But if you want to go to like restaurants or do the nightlife once in a while with your friends and everything, then it's probably going to be okay with you because it's not something that you do on the regular. All right. Oh, wow, I got to the end of the cons. My goodness. The last con that I have is owning a home in general. Now, I feel like in general, owning a home in general, meaning anywhere you own a home, it's going to require more work from you. And this was a question that I got, was if it's more work. If you're going from renting to owning anywhere, yes, it's going to require more from you. So the more that you have, the more you're responsible for. So unlike renting, you can't rely on the landlord to fix things. So when you own a home, not only is there the upkeep of the outdoor space, of the out of the house itself, the internal parts of the house, if something breaks or something needs to get fixed or updated, that falls on you. You can't just ask your landlord to fix it. You have to put in that money and that work and that effort to fix things inside and outside of your house. Okay? All right. So now we're going to move on to the pros of owning a home in Pennsylvania or living in Pennsylvania, renting in Pennsylvania in general. Okay? And I'll kind of tie it into that last question. So on the flip side of, right, owning a home and you have to, you kind of can't rely on the landlord. On the flip side is that although it requires more from you, it's nice to not have to wait for someone to fix things. I remember having landlords in the city and even here who would give me so much hassle and a hard time just to fix a doorknob or to like replace a light, or like I couldn't paint the bathroom without getting written permission. So the really great thing about owning your home, yeah, it is more work, but you have more freedom. You can fix things your own way. It's going to cost money, but you fix things your own way, the way you want to. I remember living in Queens and the shower was broke and they fixed it, but they gave me like a used shower part, which is disgusting. I ended up buying one myself. So when you own your home, you're in charge of the supplies, so you can get the best. You can get new things, nice things that suit your style. You don't have to wait on someone else to do it for you. And you know it's going to get done, right? And you can paint without having to ask permission. You pretty much do whatever as long as it's not something that you don't need like a permit for. Another question that I got was, what is my favorite thing about living here in Pennsylvania? I would say waking up for me in the morning, every morning that I wake up and I open my eyes, not even exaggerating or lying, it's like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I live here. Like literally, I wake up, I mean, look at this. I have 3 windows about the same size as this, plus another one in my bedroom. And I turned my bed so that I could face the windows. When I wake up in the morning, I'm so happy to like, it's like, I still can't believe this is where I live. This is my house. It's just beautiful. The sunlight coming in when the sun goes down. Yeah, I wake up every morning and I just can't believe that this is my home and that I get to live in such a beautiful place. So I think that's important, waking up and being happy where you live, especially if you own it. All right, so let's go through the other pros of living in Pennsylvania. All right, so although yes, the commute is long, one of the pros is where I live, specifically where I live, I'm close to New Jersey and I'm also close to the city. When I say close, I mean Jersey could be about an hour to 30 minutes away, depending on what part, and the city is about 2.5 hours to 3 hours away. That is considered close. And the reason why that's a pro is because it allows me and other people to still work in the city if they choose to. And also, the commuter bus, they do give discounts, so you get like a discount if you're a commuter. I think it's like $100 a month cheaper if you're someone who actually lives in Pennsylvania and you commute daily to work, okay? All right, another pro, this is a huge one for all you New Yorkers out there who already have cars. You're gonna feel me on this. A huge pro to living in Pennsylvania is you no longer have to worry about parking, my friends. Now, I will say that if you're going like to the downtown East Stroudsburg area or Allentown and you want to go shopping, those are areas where it's a little bit more city-like, where you will be parking on the street. You'll have to look for parking, but even then, because I've been there, I filed my taxes in a busy street like that, even those areas, you won't be driving around for hours looking for parking. So here, you're gonna have your driveway, which will fit about 2 cars. You're gonna have a parking lot. I know, and where I live now, my driveway is huge. I can fit about 10 cars in this driveway. But where I used to rent before, each section of houses had their own parking lot. So you drive in and you park, and no parking lot, no space belongs to anyone. You just park wherever, and it's near the house. So I feel like that's a big plus. You can be driving around in the city, depending where you live, for an hour. I mean, 30 minutes is good, but for like from like 30 minutes to 2 hours just to park. And it was such a relief to come home, and you just, guys, every single day you just come in, you pull right in, and you go into your house. You don't have to worry about driving around in circles. That is such a relief and a time saver that I'm just like, that right there will get so many New Yorkers wanting to live in Pennsylvania, to not have to drive around for parking. That's gold right there. Anyway, next pro is it's not really crowded here. Now, I'm going to say even the crowded areas in PA are not really crowded. So like, you're not going to be walking, and there's, again, where I live, not a lot of sidewalks, or most people drive. But when you go shopping, when you go places, it's not going to be kind of like that shoulder to shoulder feeling that that New York City has. Yeah, it's pretty nice and spacious. And if you're like me, I'm a big space person. I need my space. I need my privacy. I don't like to feel closed in or enclosed or trapped. So space for me is key. So that is definitely a pro for me and for a lot of people out there. Okay. Another pro, getting deliveries to your house is easier than if you live in a building here. All right. So like, if I'm expecting a delivery, I don't have to worry about it being dropped off in a lobby of a building. I know where I used to live, they would leave my packages by the door, and I live upstairs, and there was 4 people who lived there. Luckily, there was only 4 families, so like my stuff didn't get stolen, but I did have to like carry things up the stairs, and you know, you never know if someone coming and visiting one of the other families could have stolen my stuff. That didn't happen. But if you live in a building and that's like a concern of yours, when you get packages, it doesn't go directly to you. Living here in Pennsylvania, it's so much easier. They drop it off at your doorstep or near your stairs, and hopefully you don't have anyone who steals in your area. But yeah, it's a lot easier to get packages, especially large or like furniture size things. All right. Another pro is that most houses that you rent here in Pennsylvania come with a washer and a dryer. I think about almost all of them do, because over here there's not a lot of laundromats like in the city. So it's like considered a necessity. So I know every house that I have lived in that was rented, and that was 2 houses, they both had a washer and a dryer. So that's a big plus. And if you're purchasing a home, it'll either come with the washer and dryer, and the seller will put it in the overall price. Don't have a washer and dryer in the house that you purchase, there's always a washer and a dryer hookup and a space for a washer and a dryer. All right. So another pro, because PA is known for snow, when it does snow over here, they plow really quick. I know the minute I'm getting notifications about like a severe snowstorm, the minute it starts to snow, a few hours later, there's already trucks passing through all hours of the night and the daytime, plowing those streets. And aside from my house, where I'm literally be covered in snow, the minute I go out into the main streets or the main road right outside of my house, it's completely cleared. So that's also a plus. We're prepared here. They know how to handle snow, you guys. All right. If you rent or buy in a community here, then your sidewalk gets plowed, your parking lot gets plowed, everything gets taken care of, your grass gets cut. Now that's if you live in a community or a townhouse where it's usually townhouses that are connected. They take care of the exterior of your home and all the land and property. Or if you live like where I used to rent, it was houses that were attached, but they were all the same exact houses and you couldn't change anything. They also plowed the sidewalk. They would plow the parking lot area. They would cut the grass. They would leave you a bucket of salt in the winter. So yeah, so that is definitely a plus. You do pay more fees here for living in a townhouse or a community that does that for you. If you're renting it, you're gonna have to pay monthly. If you're owning it, if you purchase it, you still have monthly dues for those townhouses. And because they take care of the exterior of your house and your land, the dues are a lot higher than if you purchase a home like I do and I have to take care of the exterior. But it really depends on you. If you're not someone who wants to worry about those things, then you might feel like, oh, 300 or 400 extra a month is worth someone doing all that for me. Whereas if you feel like I don't want to spend that much, or you don't mind doing it yourself, then you will pay about 100 to 200 a month. Another pro for me, and you may be someone like me, I love fireplaces. I wanted a fireplace in my home. When I was searching, I did see beautiful homes that didn't have a fireplace. For me, it was just a must. I love the ambiance it gives. Even if it's not a fireplace that is made for heat, and most fireplaces aren't for heat purposes, they're usually for looks, for aesthetics. They may provide a little bit of heat, but that's not what they're really for. Most houses do come with either a fireplace, or they come with like a pellet stove. Now, the ones that come with the pellet stove are made for heating up your home. Where I used to rent in this community, there was no fireplace, but there was an old metal pellet stove where you would put the wood in, and it actually would heat up the house really well, and it was cost effective. And if the power went out, we still had heat. So most houses come with fireplaces, and if you're like me, I love fireplaces. They're beautiful. They just give your house that cozy vibe, and yeah, that's also a plus. All right, another thing is, if you're in a community like mine, and in my community there's houses like this where I'm responsible for the property, there's a lot more land in between houses, but in the same community where I live, there are also areas where there's townhouses where they're literally right next to each other, and they kind of have really tiny backyards, or they share the same property. So there's both in this community. But I will say that one of the pros is that whether you live in a townhouse here or a larger house with more space, you do get a lot of amenities, you guys, and it's really great for families if you have children, or you're planning on having children, or if you even have pets, or if, like me, you just like a lot of space. And I have my 2 pets, so it is a plus for me. But there are a lot of amenities for living where I live. Now, if you don't live in a community in Pennsylvania and you buy a house, I feel like you're definitely going to be prone to a little bit more things, like people coming into your property, or like no one shoveling the main road from where you live. So what I like is that, yes, I might be responsible for my property, but the property outside is taken care of, and there's a security gate, so like not anyone can just come in this community. You have to show ID. They call the person in, they call the house that they're going to. The person that they're calling has to give them a special code, so not just anyone can let them in. They take a picture of the license plates. There is security, internal security, that's here 24/7. They actually have a house, and they have different shifts, and they drive around the area late at night, early in the morning. There's a gym here. There's an indoor pool, outdoor pool, more than one. There's lakes here. There's streams here. There's a pond here. There's a tennis court, basketball court, a baseball field, large picnic areas. There's lakes with docks that you could go fishing in, or boating in. There's a gazebo. You have your mailboxes, so you don't get your mail directly into your house here, but you have a mailbox that you go to, and they have boxes where if you're getting an actual parcel, or like a box from Amazon, where it's not really large and it's not being left on your doorstep, then it will get put into like a locker, and the key will be left in your mailbox. You open up the locker, you take out your box, you leave your key there. So it's nice to have a separate mailbox. And then you also do have the garbage. So here you don't put garbage right outside of your house, and I think that might be to prevent like animals going into the garbage. So what I do like is, I actually like that I don't have the garbage right outside my house. That attracts insects and animals. So here you have the dumpsters that are right next to the mailbox areas. You can check your mail, then you can drive right down, and you would have to put your garbage into your truck and throw it right into the dumpster. Now, for some, that might be a con. You feel like, I don't want to have to do that. Me personally, it keeps the property clean and it prevents raccoons and things from kind of festering in the neighborhood. There is also, where I live, there's like a little man-made beach area where it's like a dock on one side, and on the other side of the lake they put sand and you can go kind of have like a beach experience. There's biking trails here, there's hiking trails. There's member services. If you have issues, you go to that office, you talk to someone to deal with things. They have this one building where it's right by one of the outdoor pools, and there's multiple pools, multiple lakes here, multiple like outdoor spaces to do things in where you can walk your dogs or like just go have a picnic. And it's not very far, it's within the community, meaning if you don't leave, if you're not leaving the gate, like past the security gate, then it's in the community. And this is a pretty big community, you guys. It's pretty big. There's small communities in PA that you can live in, and there's larger ones. Now there's some communities where your monthly fee, because there is something called dues where you pay to live in that community. If the dues are really low, you might want to think about how well the community is. I know I was looking at a house before this one, a really smaller house that was in another community, and the dues were like $50 a month, but the roads were horrible. There wasn't any parks. It looked very run down, which is why the dues are so low. The dues that I pay are not really expensive. They're still low. They're not $50, but they're not $400. So they're like, they're doable, and you get a lot for your money. There's also a place here where like in the summertime there's a lot of families here. So in the summer, a lot of people do rely on the food in school. So in the summer, they still give out like breakfast and lunch to kids during the summer break, which is really great. And they even did that for COVID while kids were schooling from home. There's also a restaurant in this community where literally it's, I can drive 5 minutes, order something, pick it up, or I can stay there. And it has a nice view, and I think it even has a pool right by the restaurant. So those are the amenities that you get in certain communities. They're all not going to be the same. You may get more or less, but they're definitely good to have. And for paying the amount of money that I pay a month, I feel like it's worth it because it's secure. There's a sense of security to all those amenities, and also I don't have to go really far to like go to the beach. I know when I lived in the city, it was like I would take a long train or have someone to pick me up and drive all the way just to go to a pool or a beach. And here I can just hop in my car, drive like 2 minutes away, and I have all those things right at my fingertips. Very convenient. So I feel like that makes up for the driving part, you know, where you have everything really close by. And my dogs, they love it. Yeah, my dogs love it. And I feel like they wouldn't have that in the city. So that goes to my next pro, is you get a lot more. When I say a lot more, guys, you get a lot more for your money, okay? If you're in the city, you know what I'm talking about. I lived there for over a decade, so I know the rent, I know the struggles, I know all the costs that you have to deal with. You get a lot more here for your money. Things are definitely cheaper. Owning a home is literally going to be less or equal to the amount of rent you pay for a tiny 1-bedroom. Just saying. You can own a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a deck and a driveway and a backyard, whatever, varies, and you will pay less a month or equal to, or maybe slightly more depending on the size of your family, than you pay to rent an apartment in the city. Okay? With no view, no space, no anything. I'm just saying, that's the, all right, Wandalee, objective, be objective, here we go. Anyway, you get a lot more for your money, okay? A lot more space. The rooms are larger in these homes. You get more land, again. In most places, if you're living in a townhouse and it's attached, the rooms are going to be smaller. You're not going to get as much land, but it's still bigger than the city. All right. So another pro, and this could be a pro and a con. If you're not someone who likes animals, this could be a con. So we'll say a pro and a con. Another pro for me is you get to see wildlife. So you'll see, I have seen deers, and they'll just be wandering around like nothing. Like it's a normal thing. Deer, skunks, turkeys, foxes, raccoons, blue jays, red robins, ducks, hawks, chipmunks, which they're so cute. I really want to catch one because I grew up watching Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I never realized like these chipmunk things are not made up characters. These are actually real animals, and I did not see one until I moved to PA. So when I finally saw these little cute chipmunks, and guys, they're cute and they are fast. I was dying to like catch a chipmunk just to be able to look at Alvin in the face, but yeah, they're really cute. Another animal that is definitely more of a con is bears. So I'm going to share this. Where I live here in this community, it's not really the bear type of area. So like, I've lived here for 2 years. I haven't seen any bears. This is not the type of area where the bear will go to, which is another reason why they put the dumpsters in a specific place, because bears will migrate to those communities that have a dumpster that is accessible. So like where I live here, I haven't seen any bears here. I've seen all the other animals I just mentioned, and there's not many stories of bears here, because they make it's kind of like they make it hard for bears to live here, and it's not super far. Like there's not a lot of land where they can hide. So like the houses are separate, but I can see my neighbor right here. I can see my neighbor right there. There's still a good amount of space, but you can still see them. Now where I used to live, I was renting. And it was not in this community. It was further in, even deeper into like the boondocks, if that's still a word, area. And we were paying dues, and there was a parking lot that the houses, which were all identical, would share. Now the dumpster was right on the parking lot. And unlike this area, that area didn't have like lights or like security. It wasn't a well-kept area, and it wasn't as populated. It was a much smaller community with no gate, and there was a lot of lands that wasn't being used, like abandoned land and abandoned houses. And I feel like that's where the bears, they had their, they were able to hide. So in that community, which was a lot smaller, and it wasn't well like groomed or organized or kept like this one is, when I would get up in the morning, I remember getting up in the morning, again 3:30. There were some lights in the parking lot, but some of the lights were not working. And I remember walking to my car, and I heard a noise, and lo and behold, there's a huge, like 1,000-pound black bear, not even lying, that was inside the dumpster. And it like stretched out, and when it stood up, it was like the entire length of the dumpster. Now, mind you, for those of you who never come into contact with a black bear, I'm not talking about brown bears. They're usually more aggressive. But this black bear, they weren't really aggressive. It just wants to eat. The minute I like would put on my flicker, or like do that alarm thing, or like the lights of my car would go on, it would hear it and it would run away. But yeah, so all this to say is where I live now, it is not like that, you guys. There's no bears. This is a larger community, and it has more roads. There's not abandoned land and houses here. So no bears where I live, thank God. All right, it is another pro. It's easier to have pets. Again, like I said, if you're owning, you don't have to like, worry about your pets having land or like space to run around in. And if you're renting, you will have some fees, but you will have like areas where you can take your animals. Another pro is that it's a slower pace. People aren't as in a rush as they are in New York. Everyone just feels so in a rush over there. Here it's very chill. Like it's more like less anxiety when you're shopping, when you're doing things. And trust me, I know I like to get things done. I'm very like, I like to on the go. But I feel like since moving here, I've learned to just stop and smell the roses, so to speak. Like enjoy like the weather. Like if there's a little bit of traffic, I'll listen to music. I feel like I've changed in the sense where I'm not so much in a rush. I know how to appreciate time and life and the space, and just, putting the brakes on once in a while. All right. Another pro is that you feel like you're on vacation. Even when I was physically going to work, when I would wake up on the weekends, because the scenery was so beautiful pretty much almost anywhere in this area, I just would wake up and it's like, it's so beautiful here. I don't think I still gotten used to it, and I don't think I ever want to take it for granted, because I feel like people come here and they take the view for granted. They take nature in general for granted. And I've been living here in general in PA for 4 years, in this house for about 7 months. But like, I still sit sometimes, or I'll like have the TV on and I'll be looking out the window instead, because it's just so beautiful. And it honestly feels like you're always kind of on vacation. And I feel like when you're in this setting, it just calms you, and it brings you like, just brings you down, where you're not so anxious and you're not like, you know. And me, those of you who know me, I'm a doer. I like to get things done, but I get up early, I get my things done, and then I just enjoy the scenery and the rest of the day. So yeah, I kind of do feel like I'm always on vacation, even when I'm working. This is definitely a big vacation spot. So I'm always on vacation, even when I'm busting my behind. Another pro is it's kind of ties in, it's very picturesque here. Every single season is absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful in the winter, as you can see. It is beautiful in the fall. Oh my gosh. It is beautiful in the spring and in the summer. It's like just beautiful all around, you guys. There's so much scenery. The snow remains white, and it's just beautiful for such a long time here. It doesn't immediately get slushy and gray. The summer is not overly hot here. It's not really like in the city, like with all the buildings and I guess the fumes, the pollution, you get like that really hot, humid mugginess. Here it's like, I remember when I was looking at this house, it was a summertime. It was, I believe it was June or the beginning of July, and that's the extreme, like high points of summer, really hot. But here where I live, and I will say again that varies from where you live, because if you drive further down into PA where the city is, and there's a lot of buildings and Walmart, it does feel a little hotter, but nothing like the city still. But here, I remember when I was looking at the house, it was the end of June, I believe. Yeah, it was like the end of June, maybe beginning of July. And it was like really hot. It was the time of summer where it's hot, but it wasn't like that here. I went out onto this deck, and like the trees gave me shade, and there was this breeze, and it just felt cool. And like, oh my gosh, like to the point where you don't really need an AC if you're not someone who likes to be cold like me. I gotta be cold in the summer, so I need my AC. But you can do with a fan. Like, I kid you not, it's breezy and beautiful, and you don't feel that agitated heat, you know, that you do if you're in the city, and all that like humidity and just mugginess. So yeah, the summer here is beautiful. It's warm, it's hot, but you still have this breeze that kind of balances out and keeps you cool. So another pro is that the air here, it smells so much fresher. It is fresher, it smells better it just smells a lot more crisp. Like in the winter and the fall, the air is more crisp. In the summer and spring, it smells like grass, and it just smells better in general. Another pro is the discount stores. Yes, there may not be a lot of hole-in-the-wall stores, but there are a lot of larger discount stores where you can save money and do your groceries and buy things and just not have to spend so much, okay? I know that everywhere you live, landlords don't like to fix things, but I feel like a pro here is, I know when I rented the house in this actual community, which is about maybe a 5-minute drive away, when I was renting that house and something needed to get fixed, you wouldn't directly reach out to the landlord like you do in this, and like you would do in most, I would assume, city areas. Like I did, I would reach out to my landlord or to the, what was that person called that the landlord would hire? You guys know what I'm talking about. You would either contact that person. Now, a good thing is, if you're renting out here in Pennsylvania, I'm not talking about buying, if you're renting out here in Pennsylvania and you're renting through a property management, one of the pros is that if you need to get something fixed, you just submit a request online. You could pay your rent online, you submit the request on the online website, and they contact you and they set up a time to fix it. It's easier to get things fixed that way because the landlord is responsible for fixing those things. You just can't put a whole bunch of requests in at once. Now, the landlord might try to fight with you, but the property management steps in and they're like, no, this needs to get done. And what they do is they take it out of the rent and then they give the landlord the rest of the money. A pro, if you're going to be renting here in Pennsylvania and you're doing it through a property management, it does cover you in the sense of getting the landlord to fix things in your apartment. Another pro, the schools are much bigger here and they have tons of parking for teachers and for parents. Another pro is there's a lot of houses in the market, you guys. They're very affordable. It's amazing what you can get here. So if you're looking to change your lifestyle, or you have a family and you want to give them like more quality of life, then yeah, there's a lot of houses in the market here. Even during COVID, I would say, even when I spoke to my realtor right around COVID, like he said houses were going like pancakes, even more so before the pandemic. Another pro, there's really good antiquing here. There's huge antique stores. There's this one that I go to that it's almost like a big warehouse, but like you could be in there for hours, and they're sectioned off by sellers. So like the seller might be hanging around on a chair like this, and everything in the area belongs to that seller. They'll ask you if you have questions, they'll help you. If you're into antiquing like I am, really great antique shops over here. Another pro, which kind of ties into feeling like vacation, if you're someone who likes the outdoors, or you like to have family and friends and visiting people like to visit you, or they like to vacation with you or come visit you during their vacation, it's really helpful because there's so many outdoor spaces and there's so much you can do that you don't have to pay for. And it's very it's nearby. It's not a really far drive. So like if I had family come here, which I had before, but let's say in the summer, we could easily go to a pool, a lake, the tennis court, you know, the docks, we can go hiking, whatever. And it's really within my community, and it's very accessible, and it's affordable. So it's definitely a plus. And I'm speaking specifically of the Bushkill Falls area and this community. However, even if you don't live in a community, there's so much land, you guys, and there's so many trails and places that are made available to people that are for free and you can go to at any time. Another pro is that there's very few stop signs. I noticed in the city, you're like driving a little block, then you're stopping. Then you're driving for like another, and then you're stopping. There's a lot of this in the city, stopping and going, and like the streets are a lot shorter. There's a lot on pretty much on the brakes of your car. Here, it's a pretty straight drive. There's a minimal stop signs. It's mostly stop lights, and they're really long roads, and you pretty much just continue driving, but there's just a speed limit that you have to be careful for. So yeah, not a lot of stopping and going. A pretty straight drive to wherever you need to go, which makes having to commute a little bit easier. Another pro is the drivers here are usually more polite. Now again, there's always those people who are going to be like aggressive, or there's going to be that type of driver that is just not the nicest person. But for the most part, like, people here let you turn in when you need to. They're not rude. They're not trying to block you off or prevent you. They're letting you go, and it's just a nicer experience to drive in PA as opposed to New York City. Another question was, is it easy to get around, like compared to? So I would say this: it's easier to get around here in Pennsylvania in the sense that I walk out my door, I hop in my car, and I go straight to where I need to go. I don't have to wait for a bus or a train. Ugh. I do not miss those days. Waiting for buses and trains, I'm so done with that. So much easier. You hop in your car, you go where you need to go. It might be 20 to more minutes out further, but when you think about waiting for a bus and a train, you're still out there for the 15-20 minutes anyway. So I would say it's much easier to get to where you need to go here in Pennsylvania than it is in the city. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I like the city, everything's more accessible. But when you really think about it, it's like, I remember waiting for buses and trains and things, and it took me a pretty good, amount of time to get to where I needed to get, and then I would have to lug all my bags onto the train, or like take a cab back, because there were times where I would buy furniture. So yeah, do I want to go back to that? Not really. I prefer to just hop in my car, go where I need to go, put everything in the trunk, and I'm right back home. There's no waiting for public transportation. And where I lived, it was pretty busy. So yeah, although the bus and the train came pretty quickly, it was crowded and you didn't have your own space. So yeah. So I mean, overall, you guys, New York City and PA are very different overall. And if you're thinking of making a choice to live here, whether it's to rent or to house, just make sure it's for the right reasons. Make sure that you really consider all these things. Make sure that you're in a place where you're ready for this type of lifestyle. It is not for everyone, and that's okay. I'm not knocking anyone who prefers the city lifestyle. I used to love the city lifestyle, but I feel like as I got older, my preferences change. Not everyone changes when they get older. I wanted this lifestyle. So you really want to think about all these things and think about why you're doing it. Don't just move somewhere because it's the thing to do or it's cheaper, or you don't want to base your decision off of one pro or one con. You want to really take everything into consideration. You know, and again, your experience is going to be different, because some of the things that are difficult for me, like having to take care of the property on my land, might be different for you. If you have a spouse, or if you have family, or if you have more money that you can hire people to do things, then yeah, some things that are more difficult for me to do are going to be easier for you to do. So it really varies on your circumstance, on your situation. I love it here. I was ready for this lifestyle, and every day I wake up and I'm blessed. I feel blessed, and I feel thankful that I live where I do, and that I'm, you know, in this home and with these surrounding area. So I feel like that's really what matters. If you're content where you live and you feel like it's for you, then that's really all that matters. So I hope that this part 2 of PA versus New York City was a little more objective for you all. I tried to make it as objective as possible, because I want you to be able to watch this video and make a really well-informed decision if you're thinking about moving into the Bushkill Falls, or like the Pocono, or any type of country area in Pennsylvania, or any country area in general, but specifically Pennsylvania. That way you can make a better informed decision, and you're not going to feel like have all these questions, or feel even surprised or like taken aback after moving here with everything that you end up learning. So hopefully this video is helpful to you all. Please feel free to comment below. Let me know if you live in Pennsylvania, what area you live in, if anything's different, if there's anything I missed. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to give this video a thumbs up if it's helpful. That's all for today. Stay safe, stay blessed, and until next time, ciao.